All right, so are you ready to jump into the deep end of local government?
Let's do it. Local government can be a little dry,
Yeah, a little bit.
but it's really important.
It is.
It really affects people where they live.
It does, and I think these meeting minutes are really going to bring that home for us today.
Thousands of pages.
Thousands. March 7th and 21st.
We're really earning the name Deep Dive with these,
I think so.
but they're fascinating.
They are fascinating.
We're going to make it fun.
We are.
We're going to find the good stuff.
We'll extract all the interesting stuff for the listener.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So we're talking Austin City Council here.
yes.
Can you remind everybody how this works in Austin?
Yeah, so basically, Austin has what's called a council manager system.
Okay.
And so you've got the mayor of the city who's elected
Yeah.
citywide.
And then you've got a mayor pro tem
Mm-hmm.
who basically fills in when the mayor's not available.
Backup mayor.
Backup mayor, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have 10 city council members who each represent a geographic district,
Like a mini Congress.
like a mini Congress. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And so a typical meeting will follow kind of a standard format.
Okay.
You've got what's called the consent agenda,
Right.
which is usually where a lot of non-controversial items are just kind of voted on all at once.
Just to keep things moving.
Just to keep things moving, exactly.
Yeah, and the March 7th meeting, wow, the consent agenda was huge.
Huge.
I mean, we're talking like oversized water mains.
Yeah, I know. Who knew?
Vegetation management contracts.
So many things.
They do a lot.
They do a lot, yeah. And that's just the stuff that, like, nobody even...
Sails right through.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it gets a little more exciting when they go to public hearings.
Yeah, because that's where, like you said, we get to hear from
Real people.
real people.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the things that matter to them.
And what they want for their city.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a good mix in these minutes from, that I can see. We've got concerned citizens.
Yeah.
We've got representatives from different organizations all wanting to have their say.
Right. And, these meetings, they're not all serious business.
No, they're not.
Sometimes you get a little entertainment.
Little jazz.
Yeah, March 7th.
March 7th.
Mark Kazanoff and the Texas Horns.
In the house.
I mean, come on.
That's awesome.
Liven things up a little bit.
I love that.
It's not your typical city council meeting.
No, not at all.
No.
But there was something from the consent agenda that really caught my eye.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
It's this pilot program that Austin Water is doing
Ah.
for on-site water reuse system.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Especially now with the drought and everything.
Yeah, and it sounds really technical, but basically it's about, like,
Yeah.
rainwater harvesting, gray water systems.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out,
Yeah.
how to use water.
been new developments and stuff.
Exactly.
And I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Really important for the city.
Okay, so we've got the consent agenda, we've got public hearings, we've got live music,
Right?
and then we've got this thing called an interlocal agreement
Oh, yeah.
with Travis County.
So this is basically when different parts of local government, like the city
Team up.
and the
Yeah.
county,
Yeah.
get together
Work together.
and they say, okay, let's do this together.
And what are they doing together?
In this case, oversized reclaimed water mains
Okay.
in the downtown area.
Oversized water mains sounds super interesting.
I know it's not the most...
Like, why should I care?
It's not the jazz hands part of the meeting,
Yeah.
but it's really important
Okay.
because we have more and more people moving here.
Right.
And this reclaimed water, it's like treated wastewater.
Okay.
They use it for irrigation and stuff.
Okay, so we don't want to run out.
And so we need bigger pipes
Got it.
to handle all that water.
So it is pretty interesting
It's essential.
when you think about it that way.
It is.
It's about sustainability and all that.
Ex-
Okay, and so they're teaming up on that. So it's not like Austin's paying for the whole thing.
Right. It's a shared cost,
Okay, that makes sense.
which is good
Yeah.
when governments can work together,
Absolutely.
save everybody money.
Now, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
That affects a lot of people in Austin, renters. There's this tenant relocation study
Yes.
that the council is looking at funding
Right.
for over $165,000.
Wow.
And it's supposed to look into all these challenges that renters face
Yeah.
when they have to move,
Right.
Sometimes
it's not by choice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So why?
It's about displacement.
Yeah.
Austin, we're growing so fast.
Right.
It's expensive, and people are getting priced out of their homes.
And so this study is trying to understand that.
So it's more than just, like, numbers on a page.
It's about real people.
Real people, yeah.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do with this information?
So hopefully this study will give the city the information they need
Okay.
to make good policies
Okay.
to help these renters.
To help people stay in their homes.
Yeah, because everybody deserves to live in Austin.
Exactly.
Not just the people who can afford
right.
$1 million home.
And then another thing from the March 7th minutes that I thought was interesting was all these appointments
Right?
to boards and commissions.
Yes, boards and commissions.
This is like,
A lot of people don't.
yeah, I feel like nobody.
Kind of the nuts and bolts of local government.
Yeah, how can people get involved?
Right, if they want to.
And these boards and commissions, they do important work.
Okay.
They advise the city council on all sorts of things.
Like what kind of things?
Parks and rec,
Yeah.
arts and culture.
Right.
You know, all these things that make Austin.
Right. So if you're passionate about something,
Get involved.
this is the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're like an arts person and you want to have a say in what kind of art gets funded,
This is how you do it.
you apply for the Arts Commission,
Okay, there you go.
you know. All right, so let's move on to the next set of meeting minutes from March 21st.
Okay.
And this one I feel like is all about development.
It is a lot of development stuff.
Yeah, lots of zoning changes, especially around North Burnett Gateway and South Congress.
Yeah, those are two really hot areas right now.
They are really interesting areas, and they're kind of different.
They are different.
Like North Burnett Gateway, that's like up north.
Right?
And that's more like, I feel like kind of,
Close to the highways?
yeah, and close to like,
Yeah, where the jobs are.
yeah, like the domain and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it seems like they're really trying to make it more
More dance.
Yeah.
More people.
mixed use,
Yeah.
live work play.
That's the idea.
Yeah, which is so interesting because then you've got South Congress,
Which is already pretty
which
big.
is like its own thing.
It's got its own vibe.
It's got its own vibe. And so how do you
Right.
balance that?
How do you keep that funky South Congress vibe
Right.
while still letting it grow?
It is a tough balance, isn't it?
And that tension is all over these meeting minutes.
Yeah. And one that really stood out to me was this Champions commercial project.
That one was interesting.
So in this project, the developers were asking for like an exemption,
From certain fees,
some certain fees.
like traffic mitigation fees
Right.
and parkland dedication fees.
Okay. And why were they asking for that?
They said that if they had to pay all those fees,
Yeah.
the project wouldn't make financial sense.
So they're basically asking the city to kind of
To share the cost.
share the cost
Yeah, a little bit.
of growth and development.
Right. Because those fees,
Right.
they go to pay for things that the city needs,
Like what kind of thing?
like roads and parks.
So it's like, well, do we want this development
Right. Is it worth it?
or do we need the fees?
Right.
And from the minute, it seems like they didn't actually make a decision yet.
Yeah.
Didn't say.
It just said that they were like considering it.
Yeah, they're still thinking about it.
So I'll have to stay tuned.
Exactly.
And then there's this comment in the public communication portion about a hostage family.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And they don't really give much context,
No.
but it's just interesting to me because it's like,
yeah, it just makes you wonder,
it makes you wonder what that's about.
like, what happened
Right.
that made them think of that during this meeting?
But it also just shows, like you were saying, that people really do just come and talk about whatever
They really do,
is on their mind.
which is cool.
It is cool.
It's their chance
Yeah.
to tell the city council what they think.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about affordable housing.
Always a hot topic in Austin.
Always a hot topic.
Yeah. And this downtown density bonus program keeps coming up.
Right.
What is that?
So basically, it's this program
Yeah.
where developers in certain parts of downtown
Okay.
can build bigger buildings,
Okay.
taller buildings,
Okay.
if they include affordable housing.
So it's like a trade-off?
It's supposed to be a win-win.
Okay.
The city gets more affordable housing,
Yeah.
and the developers get to build bigger buildings.
But, like, are there downsides?
Some people worry
Yeah.
that it will actually make housing less affordable.
How would that work?
Because if you allow developers to build these big, fancy buildings, it could make the land around them more valuable.
Oh, so it's like drives up the price of everything.
Exactly. And then people who are already living there
Right.
can't afford to stay.
That makes sense.
So it's complicated.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers.
And then there's this whole thing about neighborhood plans,
Right.
which I will admit I don't totally understand.
So basically, every neighborhood in Austin
Okay.
has a plan
Okay.
that says what they want their neighborhood to look like.
So, like, what kind of stuff is in there?
Like how tall the buildings can be,
Okay.
how much traffic they want,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
So it's like a vision.
It's a vision
Funny.
of their little part of Austin.
That's so cool.
It is kind of cool.
And so these plans sometimes conflict with what developers want to do.
Right.
And we saw that with this Heflin housing project.
Right. So in that case,
Yeah.
the developer wanted to build something
Yeah.
that was different from what the neighborhood plan said.
And what happened?
The city kind of tried to find a middle ground.
Okay.
They didn't let the developer do everything they wanted,
Right.
but they also didn't say no to everything.
Okay, so they're like negotiating.
They're trying to make everyone happy.
It's tough.
It is.
All right, last thing from this meeting that I want to talk about.
Okay.
PIDs.
Yes.
Preservation and Improvement Districts.
Catchy name.
It is catchy.
Right. You know how we were talking about neighborhoods having plans?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a PID is like a way for neighborhoods to actually make those plans happen.
Okay.
It's like they create this special district.
Okay.
And the property owners in that district,
Mm-hmm.
they agree to pay extra taxes.
Wait, so they're choosing to pay more tax?
No, it sounds crazy, but they get something for it.
What do they get?
So that extra tax money goes to pay for things like better sidewalks,
Okay.
more trees,
Oh, nice.
maybe some public art,
That's awesome.
things that make the neighborhood nicer.
But the city isn't paying for it?
The city helps out,
Okay.
but the PID residents,
They're chipping in.
they're the ones who are really making it happen.
And there's one on South Congress.
There is.
And they were talking about renewing it,
They were.
and it seemed like people were pretty happy with it.
They seem to like it.
Yeah. Which makes sense because it's like,
It's a cool area.
yeah, it's already cool, but then they've got this extra stuff to
Exactly.
make it even better.
Taking it to the next level.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me how these PIDs work.
Yeah. It's a different way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
You know, instead of waiting for the city to do everything,
Right.
these neighborhoods are like, we're going to take charge.
Yeah.
We're going to make this happen.
And speaking of taking charge, remember that comment in the minutes?
About the hostage family?
Yeah, I was curious about that, so I did a little digging.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out it was related to a discussion about the police department's budget.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was about public safety.
Interesting how just that one little phrase in the minutes
I know.
can lead to a whole other conversation.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder what else is hidden in there.
Right, like every sentence could
Right.
be a whole story.
Exactly.
But we don't have time to go down every rabbit hole today.
Sadly. Sadly not.
Maybe another deep dive.
Another time. Yeah. So we talked about PIDs.
Yeah, and I feel like they're a good example of like,
Of what happens when you
yeah,
empower neighborhoods
yeah.
to make their own decisions.
So do you think that model could work for other stuff?
It makes you wonder,
It does.
like, what about affordable housing?
Ooh, that's a big one.
It is.
Could a neighborhood be like, we're going to solve affordable housing?
I mean, it's probably not that simple,
Probably not.
but it's an interesting thought,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
Like, how much power do we want to give
Right.
to individual neighborhoods?
Versus like the city as a whole.
Exactly.
Because that seems to be the thing.
It's all about balance,
It really does, right?
finding that sweet spot.
Where everybody feels heard.
Exactly.
That's the dream.
It is the dream. Well, on that note,
I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
into the world of Austin City Council meetings.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Oversized water mains,
Tenant relocations,
zoning changes,
neighborhood plans,
wave jazz.
live jazz.
Don't forget the jazz.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is just how much,
Oh, what?
how much is going on
There's a lot happening
behind the scenes.
that we don't even think about.
Yeah, and it affects all of us.
It does.
So I think it's important to
stay informed.
stay informed.
Yeah. To pay
Or
attention.
to a meeting.
Maybe even speak at a meeting.
Yeah, why not?
Make your voice heard.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day,
Yeah,
this is our city.
it is our city.
We get to decide what it looks like,
We do.
what it feels like. That's a good point to end on.
Right.
So thank you for diving into the deep end with us.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time
See you next time.
for another deep dive.